Sergey, you said something in here. You like tables versus forward declaring things. What's the difference?
Forward declarations impacts readability. When you do a lot of forward declaration, it's harder to read and follow the code.
So that's why you like the table version. It's easier.
Yes, it's tidier. It's simpler for me to understand. Then, if you see a variable that is not attached to anything, you would assume that it's a global variable. But if you see that it's attached into some table inside and you see where the table goes, it's much simpler to understand where things happen.
I agree with you, and yet what I do to alleviate that slightly is at the top of my files when I forward declare, I say, hey, I'm forward declaring, and I use the term forward declaring so that people understand what's going on. Nonetheless, you are correct. When you get a lot of forward declared functions or variables, it's confusing.
It's fine under like 200, 300 lines, but when it's over 500 to 1,000, it's becoming a pain.
So that example that Ed was giving, that where you had a function and then within that function you had two forward declared variables, that makes sense because then it's pretty close to where those forward declared variables are to where the functions are declared, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But if you're going to, like you say, and if you're going to do something much larger, maybe then tables would be a better choice.
Right. Actually, on the last time we did on Zigzag Boom, I did a lot of forward declaration, and I noticed the exact problem, which is I had the variable at the top, and I'm constantly having to go, hey, I got the variable at the top, but I'm using it down here. And it's like it's a crazy person trying to show us what this code is.
Yeah. I can see the value, though, of having it in a table, because then, like Sergey was just saying, it's almost attached to an object. In if you want to use that term, I guess, because
self-cleaning in a sense too.
Self-cleaning.
Well, a wonderful technique is when you create a visual display object and you got a bunch of things you need to remember about it, like the person's age or the details, whatever information you want. Attach it to the object, especially if it's object that is or data that's going to go away when the object goes away. So if you don't want to clean it up, just make a bunch of fields on the object, populate those, as long as you don't conflict with existing named fields. When the object gets removed, all the data gets removed. You don't have to clear anything out, any dangling references or whatever. It's all gone.
I think you actually talked about that in the memory management.
Yeah, we talked about that about 6 months ago.
Yeah. Okay.
It feels like 6 months, but
so it's a nice little side benefit.
Same thing for the tables, though. I mean, you have a table with 10 fields on it. You want to throw away all those fields, you just set the table to an empty table, set the reference of the table to an empty table, and you're done. Or set it to nil. Now I'm just talking. This is what happens. You get me talking, and I can't shut up.
And Barry, about usage of locals, you say you don't understand, but one of the functions was using another function inside. So if you couldn't just use local, he could use only one forward declaration, but he used to just to be more pretty.
Yeah, I did it to be more to follow a formula. I'm not.
What do you call that? I've heard this term here recently, where you reason about something. It makes it easier to reason about. You heard this term? Yeah, I watched the Facebook developer videos. The Facebook developer conference, and when they were up on stage, they were talking about how doing it this way made it easier to reason about the problem. And I was like, reason about the problem? But it makes sense, right? Because you have to have building blocks of something, but then you have an overall problem that you're trying to solve. The reason that you create the building blocks of something, right? And you want to leave the solution easy to reason about the big problem that you're trying to solve. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, well, I mean, in this case, I made that decision because I didn't want to explain, well, in this case, I forward declared the function, but in this one, I didn't.
Yeah,
Here's why.
But you were saying that you wanted to declare them in order. You could have done them out of order, but you wanted logically you wanted them to be in order.
You didn't want to do that, though.
Yeah, but logically you wanted them to be order.
Never puts 2 before 1.
Right.
I'm sorry, I just can't do it.
Well, it just makes it easier to reason about. It makes it easier to understand this is 1 and that's 2, and they're in order.
Mm-hmm. I did try for a more lightweight approach this time, though. I see your side discussion there. You guys are talking about OOP, but
Yeah.
I did try to minimize this one. This one doesn't have as many moving parts as the last game, so I tried to reduce them as much as possible.